Hey everyone, this is Capital Control with my analysis of the 2026 North Carolina Senate election as of today, June 8th, 2026. So the question I want to answer today is, can the Democratic Party flip this specific Senate seat? So just as a background, Democrats have not won a Senate seat in North Carolina since 2008, when Kay Hagan defeated Elizabeth Dole by about 8.5 points, a pretty substantial victory. Currently, North Carolina is considered a swing state, having two Democratic governors in a row, that being current Governor Josh Stein and former Governor Roy Cooper, yet having voted for the Republican presidential candidates all 4 times since 2012, including Donald Trump in all 3 cycles. However, these 3 victories were pretty narrow. In 2016, Trump won by about 3.7. In 2020, Trump won by about 1.3. And in 2024, the most recent election, Trump won by only 3.2. And Democrats have gotten close to winning North Carolina Senate seats over the past few cycles. Notably, Senator Ted Budd only won by about 3 points in 2022, which is pretty notable because that year was considered favorable to the Republican Party. If you remember, 2022 being in the middle of President Joe Biden's term was considered favorable to Republicans. And in 2020, Senator Thom Tillis only won by about 1.7 points. This year, Thom Tillis decided not to run again because President Trump threatened to support a primary challenge against him over his opposition to the Big Beautiful Bill. And so this year's matchup pairs Democrat Roy Cooper, who I mentioned before was the former governor of North Carolina, against former Republican National Committee chairman and former North Carolina Republican Party chairman Michael Whatley. And so while this race could still be competitive, there are many reasons why I believe that the Democratic Party in Roy Cooper will very likely flip the seats. The first reason is that Democrats have a very strong candidate in Roy Cooper, who's in fact never lost an election in North Carolina. So Cooper has actually won every single election he's run in North Carolina. If you look at 2000, he won the Attorney General race there. He won again in 2004, won again in 2008. In 2012, no Republican even filed to run against him. And in 2016, he won his first term as governor of North Carolina, however, by a pretty narrow margin. And then in 2020, he won by about 4 points. And so evidently, Cooper is a very strong candidate because of the fact that he has never lost an election in North Carolina and tends to overperform the top of the presidential tickets. In 2020, while Joe Biden lost North Carolina about 1 point, Cooper actually overperformed him by about 5 points and won re-election by a 4-point margin. In fact, Cooper actually holds much higher favorability ratings and name recognition than Whatley. A recent May poll found that about 49.8% of voters in North Carolina had a favorable opinion of Cooper, while only 38.5% had an unfavorable opinion. On the other hand, Michael Whatley had a 25.4% favorability rating, while he has an unfavorability rating of 21.9%. But if you look at the name recognition, 33.4% of voters have never even heard of Whatley, while only 3.7% of voters haven't heard of Cooper. And this is expected because Cooper has served as both governor and attorney general of North Carolina in the past, while Whatley, having never held public office, is much less known among the general North Carolina population and is really only known among the Republican Party just because of the fact that he was once the chairman of the North Carolina Republican Party. And so while Senate seats tend to be more nationalized and more polarized than gubernatorial elections, I would expect that Cooper's high name recognition and popularity to translate into a fairly easy Senate win. My second reason is that head-to-head polling consistently shows a clear lead for Cooper. The average polling between the two is about 49.2 to 40.8%, or an 8.4% lead for Cooper. And in fact, if you look at many polls, Cooper has hit the crucial 50% mark, while Wally has not led in a single poll this cycle. In every single poll taken from both neutral sponsors, from Democratic sponsors, and from Republican sponsors, Cooper has been consistently defeating Michael Whatley. And also, Cooper has had much success fundraising, as he has raised over $26 million compared to Michael Whatley's $8 million, which shows high donor and voter enthusiasm in favor of Cooper. So just based on these polling and fundraising numbers, Cooper is easily favored in this race. And the final reason why I believe that Cooper is heavily favored to flip the seat is because of the national environment. Due to President Donald Trump's general unpopularity, his approval rating has fallen to 38% right now, which is the lowest it has ever been in both of his terms. And the fact that there's a historical precedent behind the midterm elections being favorable to the party out of power, which is currently the Democrats, the Democratic Party is on track to make huge gains in both chambers of Congress. And currently, the generic congressional ballots is about 48.1% to 42.1% for Republicans, meaning that the Democrats have about a 6-point lead. And given that North Carolina is considered a swing state in a neutral year, it should come as no surprise that Democrats would be favored to take the Senate seat in a blue-leaning year such as this one. Paired with Cooper's electoral strength, Democrats are very likely to take the seat. And so, to summarize, while the North Carolina Senate seat is not an automatic flip, come November 3rd, 2027, I would expect to see Senator Cooper rather than Senator Whatley representing North Carolina in the Senate. While most pundits have this Senate race as either toss-up or lean Democratic, I would actually argue that likely Democratic would be the best fit for this race, because Cooper's strong polling numbers, fundraising, and high name recognition among North Carolinians will likely be too much for Michael Whatley to overcome. So therefore, I believe that Roy Cooper will flip the Senate seats for the Democratic Party in the 2026 midterms. So thank you all for watching, and please let me know down in the comments if you have any questions about this race. I'll try to post another Senate race analysis over the next few weeks, likely either on Georgia or Texas. See you guys.